Genius Kids. Cultivating love for learning.
Chapter 6: The 5 Chinese Brothers. Once upon a time, there were 5 Chinese brothers, and they all looked just alike. They all lived with their mother in a little house not far from the sea. The first Chinese brother could swallow the sea. The second Chinese brother had an iron neck. The third Chinese brother could stretch his legs. The fourth Chinese brother could not be burnt, and the fifth Chinese brother could hold his breath for as long as he wished. Every morning the first Chinese brother would bid his mother goodbye and go fishing. Whatever the weather, he would come back to village with beautiful fish which he had caught and could sell it at the market for a very good price. One day as he was leaving the marketplace, a little boy stopped him and asked if he might go fishing with him. "No, it cannot be done," said the first Chinese brother. The little boy begged, and at last the first Chinese brother said, "You may go if you will promise one thing. Promise me to obey promptly." Yes, the little boy promised. Early next morning the first Chinese brother and the little boy went down to the shore. "Remember," said the first Chinese brother, "you must obey me promptly. When I make a sign for you to come back, you must come at once." Then the first Chinese brother swallowed the sea. All the fish were left high and dry at the bottom of the sea. All the treasures of the sea lay uncovered. The little boy was very delighted. He ran here and there, filling his pockets with wonderful shells and plants which he had never seen before. Word meaning: alike, similar, swallow, to grab, promptly, quickly, treasures, accumulated wealth. Near the shore the first Chinese brother gathered some clams while he kept holding the sea in his mouth. Soon he grew tired. It was very hard to hold the sea. He made a sign with his hand for the little boy to come back. The little boy saw but paid no attention. The first Chinese brother waved his arms to call the boy back. Did the little boy care? Not a bit, and he ran farther away. The first Chinese brother felt the sea pushing up inside him. He waved his hands to call the little boy. The little boy made faces at him and ran as fast as he could the other way, going farther and farther away from the shore. The first Chinese brother held the sea until he could stand it no longer. All of a sudden the sea pushed its way out of his mouth and went back to its bed, and the little boy vanished. When the first Chinese brother returned to the village alone, he was taken by the police. He was tied and told he was going to have his head cut off. On the morning he was to die, he said to the judge, "Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid my mother goodbye?" "It is only fair," said the judge. Therefore, the first Chinese brother went home, and the second Chinese brother came back in his place. All the people gathered on the village square to see him killed. The man who was to kill him took a sword and did him a mighty blow on the neck. The second Chinese brother got up and smiled. He was the one with the iron neck. The sharpest sword just could not cut his head off. Everyone was angry. They decided that he should be drowned. On the morning he was to die, the second Chinese brother said to the judge, "Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid my mother goodbye?" "It is only fair," said the judge. Word meaning: clams, mollusks, vanished, disappeared, square, a four-sided area surrounded by buildings, blow, a hard stroke. Therefore, the second Chinese brother went home, and the third Chinese brother came back in his place. He was pushed on a boat, which made for the open sea. When they were far out on the ocean, the third Chinese brother was thrown overboard. He began to stretch his legs far far down to the bottom of the sea, and all the time his smiling face was bobbing up and down on the waves. He just could not be drowned. Everybody was very angry and they decided that he should be burnt. On the morning he was to die, the third Chinese brother said to the judge, "Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid my mother goodbye?" "It is only fair," said the judge. Therefore, the third Chinese brother went home, and the fourth Chinese brother came back in his place. He was tied to a big pole. Fire was set to it, and all the people stood around watching. From the middle of the flames they heard him say, "This is quite pleasant. Bring some more wood." The people cried. The fire roared higher. "Now it is quite comfortable," said the fourth Chinese brother, for he was the one who could not be burnt. Everybody was getting more and more angry, and they all decided that he should be smothered. On the morning he was to die, the fourth Chinese brother said to the judge, "Your Honor, will you allow me to go and bid my mother goodbye?" "It is only fair," said the judge. Therefore the fourth Chinese brother went home, and the fifth Chinese brother came back in his place. A large brick oven had been built on the village square. It looked like a huge beehive, and it had been all filled with whipped cream. The fifth Chinese brother was shoveled into the oven, right in the middle of the whipped cream. The door was shut tight, and everybody sat around and waited for him to smother. Word meaning: stretch, to extend; whipped, a kind of desert; shovel, thrusted; smother, dense stifling smoke. They were not going to be tricked again. So they stayed there all night and even a little after dawn, just to make sure. Then they opened the door and pulled him out. He shook the whipped cream off himself and said, "My, that was a good sleep." Everybody stared with open mouth and round eyes. But the judge stepped up and said, "We have found it impossible to kill you. We have tried to cut your head off with a sword, to drown you, to burn you, and to smother you in an oven. Somehow it couldn't be done. It must be that you did nothing wrong and should not be killed." "Yes, yes," shouted all people. So they let him go, and he went home. After that the 5 Chinese brothers and their mother all lived together happily for many years. Word meaning: tricked, deceived, dawn, daybreak.
Like, share and subscribe.